Hell. Sorry about that. Hold on. This is going to sound awful for just a second, so I'm going to mute this. Oops, muted the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Hello, friends. Good morning. Hello. Welcome back to 1D10T Does Stuff, and I'm the 1D10T in charge, Trevor Stewart 1308. We are here. We're going to be reading from Inflamed Deep Medicine in the Anatomy of Injustice again today. Because it's Tuesday, a nice depressing stream. Let's see if we can get this shout out to Just Me Crystal out there. There we go. Much love to you, Just Me Crystal. Great to see you. Hi, Akuda99. We're going to start, of course, today with our ad read shout out. Today's pre-rolls brought to you by The Hidden Leaf, downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, on the Downtown Mall, 105 West Main Street, above the Bricks, Suite 200, between the Green Cauldron and Hamilton's. A great place to go with some great buds. Get some great buds, a bud, and the only thing better than their bud is their customer service. And they have the lowest prices in town, according to my own personal research, my own personally highly biased research, by which I mean I was incredibly high when I did my biased research. Note of disclosure. The website is thehiddenleafcville.com. That's thehiddenleafcville.com. And a note of disclosure, because today is one of our more politically oriented streams. All of the opinions expressed herein, while being correct, are only the opinions of the expressor and the channel, not necessarily the opinions of any of our sponsors, like The Hidden Leaf, The Kush Gang, or Firehouse. Nice. Pleasant. All of this being said, again, today is a politically oriented stream. And so I wanna say a couple of things here about that. Number one, I'm not gonna force anyone to be here or listen to me. I'm not gonna make anyone see things from my perspective. I'm here offering perspective to those who are looking for it and looking for perspective for myself. I want to re-bring up, before we get into what Tuesday's stream is about, I want to re-bring up something that I said on Saturday, which is, while I have all the room for people to disagree with me politically, a lot of what we call politics on this show, on this channel, are really us advocating for equality. And, you know, I when I'm on here advocating for big government and more taxes, things like that, it's understandable for people to disagree with that. Center right with your politics, Akuda. This is really not the channel for you or the stream for you, buddy. And I hate to say that, but like, and here's the thing, man. All of this politics, like I said, is advocating for equality. I feel like you know, when I'm talking about, oh, raise taxes and make the government bigger, sure, disagree with that. That's political gray area, you know, but with all the socio-political stuff, I'm really here demanding space for people to see us as people. I'm here to demand equality. I'm here to make space for marginalized people who do not have equality. And what I said last Saturday was, if my politics, if my socio-political stances, if our politics here make you angry, then you might want to check yourself on that, because all we're doing is asking for equal consideration in the eyes of society. Consideration heretofore has been so unequal that just to be asking to be treated like human beings looks like some huge political movement. And then the debate over that turns into the debate of if it is a political movement or not. How valid are these people asking for consideration? And the thing is, they're valid. They're people. They're just people trying to live, trying to be themselves, do their thing, not trying to tell other people how to live. But other people are trying to tell them how to live, trying to tell us how to live. And what we want is this equal consideration of, we get to live how we want if you get to live how you want. We get to have equal access to money, to power, to healthcare, to food, to shelter. We get to have equal access to to all the things. I'm speaking to, in a broader sense. I'm speaking to a broader sense. You just happen to be here, Akuda. I'm really speaking in a much broader sense. You know, that's it. It is. I'm speaking in a broader sense because you and I haven't actually talked about what it is that I'm saying that angers you. You know, where the anger's coming from. So I don't. But I am speaking in this sort of broad, non-specific way. It is it's hard for me. I'm old. I'm tired. I do gotta say, Darth Dragonis, you are 100% correct. If you support hatred and white supremacy, you are not welcome here. You know, and Darth Dragonis is he's our enforcement arm. He's our attack dog. He's our, you know, And as I said on Saturday, I'm giving him rain. I'm giving him his lead. You know, I guess I should clarify by that. I'm giving you lead to time out, ban, do your mod stuff. If you feel, Brock, arms used mostly for hugs. Yes. If you feel someone is not being cool, it is this. The debate has been moved to instead of talking about how we can all prosper, talking about how everyone could be equal, everyone could be, the debate has been about, are we valid? Should we treat black people like people? Should we treat gay people like people? Should we treat non-male people like people? And when that's the debate, when the debate becomes about should we treat a group like people, then it's no longer a debate about ideas. It's no longer a debate about, about concepts. It becomes a debate about validity. And almost everyone in our group, in this channel, everyone represents some marginalized group. Now, we don't represent all the marginalized group here in my channel, and I would like to see more diversity, inclusion, and equity. But we do represent marginalized groups, including the handicapped, the differently abled, and the disabled. And a large part of what we're doing here is asking for those marginalized groups to no longer be marginalized. Treat us with equity. Treat us like we are people. Akuda says, I'll put it this way. I believe that the best way to bring the best ideas into practice in a larger society is allowing those that think differently to you to have a voice so that people can decide for themselves what they want to believe or don't. I wouldn't censor or remove anyone from places I bring discussion to, even if I don't like what they said. It would be overwhelming if I did, let alone everyone. I treat my fellow man the same, and equally I oppose ideas, not groups of people. Orwellian, not overwhelming. It would be Orwellian. Sorry. Dyslexia. And on an individual level, I see that. I see that very much on an individual level. However, and a large part of what Inflamed is talking about is that this is not an individual problem. This is a systemic-wide problem. System-wide problem. The systems... I don't say that people are racist. I don't say that people are bigoted. behavior, ideas, expressions, those are all racist. Those are all bigoted. People are... I'm going to stay away from that. It isn't the individuals that are the problem. It's the systems. Like, I don't think that you're a hateful person, Akuda. I don't think that you hold hate in your heart. I doubt that you see anyone as less than human. But the systems that we take part in, especially right-wing systems, especially capitalism, not only do they impose these... Don't censor myself. Oh, on this channel I do. I'm allowed one F-bomb a week on this channel. The systems, these larger systems, are built to keep the status quo in place and the way it is. And the status quo is racist. It is sexist. It is ableist. It is all of the ists, all of the isms. Because it was built by people who wanted to stay in power. The system was built to keep those people in power. The people in the system aren't necessarily racist, ableist, sexist, all the ists, all the isms, but the system is. And what the people who prop up the system do, what the people who benefit the most from the system do, is convince everyone else that systems can't be racist, that racism has to be an individual thing. And for racism, I'm also using sexism, ableism, the isms and the ists. That is an individual thing. It can't be larger than the individual. It can't be system-wide. And individuals, most individuals aren't racist, aren't hateful, right? Rashy behavior, right? People aren't necessarily rashy. They may have rashy behaviors. We can't know what another person is thinking, feeling, what's in their head, who they are in their heart. We can only know what we observe of them. So when people exhibit rashy behavior, they may not be that way, but it's a safe bet that people like me or any of the other marginalized people aren't necessarily safe around that person, can't go to that person for help, can't expect that person to respect anything we do or say, can't expect that person to respect our space or our existence. In the new political climate, I fear Christian doctors. I am afraid of going to a Christian doctor because the Bible says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." And I am a witch. And while a Christian doctor may have taken the Hippocratic Oath, I can't know if they believe that or if they believe that they're Christian. Are they a doctor first or are they a Christian first? Am I, being pagan, am I safe with that person? Is it safe to tell that doctor that I am not Christian? But that person may or may not be. The system that surrounds them is. The system that surrounds them, well, it's set up to make people like me uncomfortable. Or black people uncomfortable. Uncomfortable going to the doctors for help. Uncomfortable going to the police for help. Incapable of going to the banks for financial help. It's on some level, if people are not okay with me demanding that the status quo change to accept people, to accept us as people. And how do I want to put this? What I'm doing here is making space for marginalized people to be who they want to be, without fear of non-marginalized groups saying, "Don't do that, it makes me angry." I'm trying to make a space Let me finish this thought and I'll get to that, Akuda. Just Me Crystal is a very smart person. But often she says, "I just have a small brain. I'm just here to learn. I'll sit in my corner. I'll be quiet now. I don't want to bother anyone." All of this self-diminishing language. What I'm trying to do is create a space where people like Just Me Crystal don't have to make themselves smaller to be there. Where they can take up as much room as they want, as they need, being there. A lot of my friends, specifically a lot of my black woman friends often talk about not having the space to be able to be themselves without being judged. And that's part of what I'm trying to do with this channel in general, is make space for specifically black women, but in general for marginalized people to be loud, be themselves, and be comfortable being here. All right, Akuta says, what I'm hearing is similar to what others make you feel, almost as a defense mechanism in a way. Being fearful of what you don't understand or misunderstand is adding to divide in our society, not one specific group. I understand what you're saying, and I do largely agree. Okay. Yeah. Yes. It is, fear does add to the division. And me being afraid of Christians adds to the division. I go past my fear of Christians. I do. You know, I can move past my fear of Christians. It is one of the things involved in this moment is Christians haven't been under threat from pagans in millennia. In hundreds of years. Right? So, when I'm... Hey, Master Asta 420, good to see you. Much love. When I'm out in the world as a pagan... Oh, you got there before me. When I'm out there in the world as a pagan and Christians automatically fear me because of that, it is, I want to ask them, when was the last time one of us hurt one of you? And on the other side of that, as a pagan in public, when I see a Christian and I react fearfully, if they ask, oh, when's the last time one of us hurt one of you? I can say there are still witch hunts actively going on in Africa, in India, there are active witch hunts going on in the world right now. I admit, I don't have receipts on hand to pull up and show people, but... and this is all very generalized and very full of hyperbole. And this is also part of why I think this Saturday we are going to do Saturday Evenings Posted Mostly presents an episode about logic and logical fallacies. So that I can have better ground to explain what I'm thinking, explain where I'm at. One of the big things going on right now, one of the big debates in America, is fetal personhood. And I find this debate to be spurious because we don't take care of our people after they're born. I would find the argument against abortion less problematic if we didn't have, if we didn't abandon poor people, if we didn't just abandon them, if we didn't make it so hard for people to be poor, if we didn't make life, if we didn't make it illegal to be poor, in fact, because it is pretty much, we've pretty much illegalized being poor. It really is the circumstances around what's going on that make me not have room for the arguments that are being leveled. Yeah. If it wasn't so hard for a single mother to raise a child, if it wasn't so expensive, if it wasn't so time consuming, so energy consuming, you know, it's impossible for a single mother to have a job and to take care of a child. And this, to me, represents an abandonment of people after they're born. All the pro-life movement seems to care about is forcing women to have babies. It's not about the quality of the children's life after they're born. It's not about the quality of life for the mother. It's not even about survival for the mother or the baby. Because it is... Yeah, because they have made it so... Oof. The states that have abortion bans have very little carve-outs for danger to the mother, danger to the baby. Akuta says, on the topic of the church and the super closed-off radical evangelists, I don't see them as true Christians. The words that they often preach on the street are tainted by the hate and the vitriol they spew. I did, fortunately and unfortunately, grow up both Baptist and Catholic. Baptists are better, but marginally. Those I believe to be true Christians are those that typically take the lessons with them and not shout it from the mountaintops. I follow my own personal path spiritually, but found there's more on the way, I feel. Lessons and values from Christianity to be important for me, such as love thy neighbor, as an example. That is a good lesson. And I'm not saying that there isn't wisdom in the Bible. There's wisdom in the Bible, there's wisdom in the Talmud, there's wisdom in the Quran. There's wisdom in all of these books. There's wisdom in all of these religions. Hey, buddy, you okay? Hey. Deadpan Dog was having a dream. There's wisdom in all of this, and I do feel like it's important to take the wisdom where you find it. There are also a lot of, in any religious text, including the ones that I grew up on, there are a lot of problems. I grew up on Greek mythology. And whoo boy, was Zeus not a good guy. Not a good guy. He was really problematic. The one I pray to, Athena, very problematic. She is... she's got some issues, dude. You know? No God, no religion, no text is infallible. And the fact that the Christian God wants to say it's infallible, I'm going to step back from that. I believe that there are several versions of the Christian God, because I know that the one that Just Me Crystal hangs out with ain't like that. The God that Just Me Crystal hangs out with is cool with me being me, likes me for who I am, and just wants people to love each other. But that's different from... That's different from Baptist's version of God, from the Catholic version of God. Even the new Catholic version of God is different from the old Catholic version of God. And I think they are different. I think they are different. You know? The Jesus and God is love version is very different from the fire and brimstone of the Old Testament. So again, it's not necessarily individuals or even individual gods or individual religions. It's this collective status quo that has been built up by people in power who want to stay in power. That is the thing that I am taking aim at and want to build a place for people who need that space. For marginalized people who need that space. Akuta says, with the pro-life versus pro-choice, I believe there's a disconnect. The left often believes pro-lifers have malice and don't care about the children after birth. The right often believes that pro-choice wants to needlessly murder and mutilate the youth. If both sides were to come together and discuss this among many things without judgment, like we're doing now, they'd find more in common than not. Agreed. Agreed. I will say that me, personally, on the left, and I think a lot of people on the left, and I think the left in general, doesn't see it as individuals on the right don't care. Because what individual is gonna go, nah, F that baby. That baby can die. Like, no one, right? Humans, I think, at a basic level, are decent creatures, right? And on an individual level. But the system that was built is racist. The system that is built doesn't care about those kids after they're born. And one of the big divisions is this idea that each side is a monolith. That the whole of the side represents each individual's full-on beliefs. Whoa, okay. Hey, there's something going on in the chat I need to look at. Darth Dragona said pro-choice. Did you... Buddy Christ, gotta modernize it, complete with Mooby. Moobies! Pro-choice, did you see where the last Trump supporter cop got caught feeling up a little girl on a cruise ship? I didn't know about that. That's not surprising. Akuda says, King James Bible is often cited as the Bible, but it wasn't the true version. It was changed to fit King James's narrative and doctrine at the time. Yes. Darth Dragona says the Old Testament was worse. Yes. I'll allow it. Doesn't matter which side does it, pedos need to be put down by firing squad. It happened a few days ago. And again, this is there is a logical fallacy here that we'll be talking about. You know, now, yeah, that's messed up. It is, again, the part of the Old Testament that's fire and brimstone is often miscited and misquoted, and only a specific part of it. I'm gonna proceed with caution because I haven't looked over the Old Testament in a long time. But I kind of feel like it was spread throughout. Darth Dragona says, it seems like those pedos are pro-life Trump supporters. Akuda says they're on both sides. It's never about politics for these kinds of people. I disagree, Akuda. I disagree. Here's the thing. The current administration has made it really easy for these people to get away with being bad people. They've made it... This current administration has normalized this kind of behavior. It's made this seem... And it's taken away the guardrails that keep this kind of behavior from happening. And while politics may not matter to people who want to diddle kids, it's not the politics necessarily that matters. It's that the people who are in power now are making it easier for those kitty diddlers to do their kitty diddling. So of course they support the people in power. It's not about left or right leaning politics or religion at that point. It's very much about who's gonna help who? Who's gonna make it okay for these people to keep doing what they're doing? And yeah, I'm not saying that the current administration is a bunch of kitty diddlers, but they've definitely done things to make it difficult for SA to be reported of any kind. And to take it out of the realm of kitties, see, okay, let's stay away from, because I don't know what Epstein's list means exactly. You know? I have a feeling that Epstein... See, I have a feeling that Epstein's list is a lot like... a distraction. You know, yeah, Epstein's in trouble for Epstein's list, but it's a way for both sides to go, hey, what aboutism, what aboutism, what aboutism? That, you know, that's sort of the... And again, it's the kind of thing that takes the debate away from what the problem really could be and turns it into a debate about something else. I believe in the logical fallacies, they call it red herring. Change the nature of the debate so that you're debating something else. You know, I do know that Democrats and Republicans both get taken out by... No. Democrats get taken out by sex scandals. Republicans don't seem to. And the reason Republicans don't seem to is because they don't care. Their party does not care. Democrats get taken out by sex scandals because the Democratic Party wants to have ethics. But more than wanting to have ethics, wants to appear to have ethics. And here's where I have a problem with the Democratic Party. Yeah. Here's where I have a problem with the Democratic Party. They're so busy trying to play by the rules and say, hey, look, we're playing by the rules, that they can't get anything done. They can't they get taken out by the smallest violations of the rules or of the standards or whatever that they've set up. That to be a truly good leftist or Democrat, you have to be perfect. You have to be the perfect example, or else you're not right. by the rest of your group. Like, I mean, I am not the kind of leftist they want saying, hey, I'm like them, I'm a leftist, because I'm the kind of leftist whose gender does change every minute. I'm the kind of leftist who does kind of believe in almost fascism. You know, I am the leftist that the right fears. I am the leftist that, and I'm not a good look for the party. Which is fine. I'm self-aware enough to know that, and I temper my existence so that I don't damage the movement as a whole. Akuta says, also, partially why I came here is because I've been pretty harsh in the past towards opposing political ideas, and I want to foster a cohesive community, which I need to listen to those opposing points of view. That is understandable. That is very understandable. You know, at a basic level, all we're asking for is equality. Not just individual equality, but total equality, systemic equality. We don't just want individuals on the right to see us as equal. We want the whole system of the party on the right to see us as people, but we also want all the systems that exist, like to see us as people and not invalidate our personhood because our gender isn't set. Like, I would love to be able to just choose a gender and stick with it. Do you know how complex it is waking up in the morning and going, am I a dude? Am I a chick? Am I somewhere in between? Is it combat boots and a dress kind of day? Is it high heels and work pants kind of day? Like, so it's not like I want to be where I'm at. Although I do want to believe that everyone's equal. I'm glad that I have the values that I have, the social values, and the political values that I have. I do think that a liberal government is good. I do think a large and unwieldy, but exceptionally large, bureaucratic, centralized government is a good idea. I really do. I believe in it. And I believe that government should take care of all of the people that live within its confines, that live within its, I believe it should provide for the common welfare and commonwealth of its citizens. And I believe that its citizens should provide the capital for it to work. I believe in taxes. I believe in government subsidies. I believe in taxes. I believe in big government. I believe in personal freedoms, individual freedoms. But I also believe in a lot of government oversight. But if you argue with me about the individual freedoms, I'm going to look at you funny. But the rest of that, argue that with me. I get it. That is That's a political and economic opinion. You know? Akuda says, one thing I don't understand and haven't, despite trying, is the idea of multiple genders and sex and gender being separate. Maybe you can give me a better insight or understanding on it. Every time I've asked somebody that believes that, I get screamed at. Okay. It's a complex thing. I can only speak from my experience, my own personal experience. And what I will tell you is that the most important thing for people to do, yeah, gender is a feeling, sex is your bits. Basically. The important thing to do in these cases is remember that these people are just asking you to accept that they see themselves in a way, and to interact with them as if they are who they see themselves to be. Just because you're hungry doesn't mean you want to eat the same thing. Yeah, kinda. I may not be a great example for this because I am so fluid and so accepting. My gender, I am omnigendered. That is what I consider myself to be. I am omnigendered. I can run the entire range of genders and the entire range of coupling partnerships. My gender, and gender really is about how you feel like you are. And it is a matter of, it's a matter of respect, saying to someone, I will call you she, her, even though I know that your bits aren't that, because I respect your desire to feel like yourself. It's Akuda says, I accept and respect anyone if they give that in return. Only times I don't is when others don't, and even then I don't blatantly cause them harm. I just reflect their energy and move on most of the time. I mean, that's a good way of going about life, I guess, to some degree. I will say I offer everyone the basic respect of addressing them as they wish to be addressed. If someone if I say meet someone in a man, you know, we'll call him John Q. Doe, right? And I meet John Q. Doe, and I say, oh, it is a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Doe. And he goes, no, don't call me Mr. That was my father. You can call me Johnny. If you continue to refer to him as Mr. Doe, then you're actively disrespecting him when he said, please call me Johnny. And it's sort of like that with it's like that, except for more intensely personal for non-cisgendered people, for people whose gender is transitory or has transitioned. You know, they say, please call me Mrs. Doe. And you keep calling them Mr. Doe, and that's an active position of disrespect towards them. And that is, that's why so many of us get so angry about it, is because people actively disrespect us. The system actively disrespects us. And all we're asking for is a little bit of consideration, you know? Like, just treat us like who we are on the inside. It is like racism in that black people get treated differently because, and seen as less than human, because they are different on the outside. But they're not. They're people on the inside. Not white people, not black people. They're just people on the inside. Same with white people. They're just people on the inside. Not white people, not black, just people. And so this act of removing the respect for what somebody is on the inside by what they are on the outside is what I'm pushing against. It's what I don't like, what I'm angry about. All right. Darth Dragonis had said, that's why gender is a feeling. It's not really based on any facts. And what's good for one person might not be good at all for another. Akuda said, a big government eventually leads to the individual not having rights due to overreach being that, overreach. It is up to the individual to be responsible for taking care of themselves and their community. I don't think the government should be subsidizing absolutely everything, as it breeds complacency and stagnation in individuals and society as a whole. I disagree. I don't think it breeds complacency and stagnation. I think that, and I don't think that government necessarily will overreach. I believe that government oversight is important in professional, industrial, political, and commercial places, but not in personal or social. You know, having boundaries for where the government is allowed to be and not allowed to be is very important. And that's the thing, is the current administration wants there to be no boundaries. Small government, not a lot of people in power, but they want all the power. All of it. All of it. The biggest problem, I think, for that specifically is career politicians. I think it's the amount of money that can be in politics is the real problem there. Akuda says, I voted for a smaller government, not bigger. Darth Dragona says, you voted for Trump. Yeah, you voted for overreach and having the government control everything. Cutting regulation and overreaching laws is voting for overreach. No, cutting of regulation has been done or will be done. They sacked the courts. Moscow Mitch has made sure of that. Canada being the 51st state is not overreaching. Changing names of places is not overreaching. Musk with 3Ks being brought in is not overreach. Changing the narrative with 2 different wars is not overreach. To which Akuda says Chuck Summer said on a national news channel that he and his constituents stacked the courts. And Dragonis says, and that's the big one, Project 2025 is nothing but overreach. And if we had stacked the courts, I'd like to point out, then why have we had a majority conservative Supreme Court and majority conservative federal judges this entire time? No one's packed or stacked any courts. Well, no, that's not true. In his first term, Trump did. Trump put in a lot of federal judges in order to pack and stack the courts in his favor so that he could get this Project 2025 going. Now, does Trump know what Project 2025 is? Doubt it. Doubt it. He doesn't have to. In fact, he doesn't have to know anything. It's his people that are doing it, and he's just saying yes. WEF plan, they were freely admitting since the mid-60s. Trump isn't mentioned on the site. Aside from disclaiming that he is not part of it, it was also Project 2030 before they changed the name. Okay, so they've been doing these since Reagan. World Economic Forum, okay. They've been doing these since Reagan. I know very little about the World Economic Forum, so I'm gonna be careful about that before I step in it. But I do know that these plans, that these these right-wing think tank collaborative plans, playbooks, have been coming out since Reagan. They've been doing this since Reagan. And while any individual, and this is the point I'm trying to make. It's an individual says, oh, I don't know about that. I'm not trying to do that. Even when the individual is Trump, that individual can claim plausible deniability to any given. It doesn't mean that the collective isn't doing it, that the system isn't doing it. I'm not saying, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this straight up. We're not in a post-racial world. We're not in a post-racial U.S. We may be in a post-individually racist U.S., although I will say we're not even there because that's a different story. But we may be in a post-individually racist U.S., but we're not in a post-racial U.S. because any given individual is probably not racist. The systems that were developed and persist are. It's this difference between this sort of rugged individualism, this individual responsibility, and collectivism and collective responsibility. And this is, again, part of where I really have a problem with Stoicism. Rugged individualism is myopic. It, by the nature of its focus, it can't see the whole picture. Project 20, Dragona says, Project 2025 went into effect right away. If he has nothing to do with it is one thing. Being out into place is another. This is difficult to both describe and perceive because it is a mix of the extremely macroscopic and the extremely individual. You know, you have to look at the global picture of societies. But you also have to get so granular that you look at each individual person. And you have to be able to hold these two things, this is spectrum of size in your mind as you're dealing with this. Individuals, maybe I know there are still racist individuals. There are still people who are racist, who are bigoted. And that is, not just that that's all of their activity, everything they say and do shows you that. No, they make it a core part of their being. But then there's a gradation all the way to people who are anti-racist. But when we concentrate on classifying any individual, when we concentrate on trying to say, okay, you as an individual are such and such, such and such, such and such, and that makes you either good or bad. I got derailed there. We say you're such and such, such and such, such and such. You're either good, you're bad. You're You know, we want to get that granular. We can't. We have to look at, yeah, no, I lost my place. Akuda says, from my perspective, from multiple decades of passively paying attention to politics and people, the left has slowly, over time, demonized one specific group of people, that being white people. More specifically, young white men. I got demonized and othered because of it. Being made to feel that it wasn't okay for simply existing, then in the other turn almost demanding that everyone cater to their group's needs solely. I'm center right politically because I agree with things on both sides, but I lean more conservative. What I will say, I'm not going to say that your individual experiences weren't valid. Hell, in my life, I've gotten yelled at for being a misogynist. I've got told I'm not gay enough. I've got told I'm not um and I don't I don't defend that behavior in people in my side. You know, gatekeeping is wrong no matter who does it. Well, I'm that's an awful big statement there, Trev. You may want to back up off that. But just because just because some people have misrepresented our side to you, that doesn't mean that all of our side is invalid. And that's something that I try to keep in mind. Like, just because a lot of the right, most of the right, has said stuff like that, has been aggressively anti me, you know, doesn't mean that everything that I don't think that conservative economic or certain conservative policies are always going to be about it. I know there needs to be room for both conservative and progressive ideas in government, but socially, I don't think there's room for people who are going to tell me I'm not valid. Just like there shouldn't really be room for people on my side telling you you're not valid. You know, your experiences are valid. My experiences are valid. We are valid human beings. Darth Dragona says, sounds like you were passing the buck and playing the victim. Akuda said, some of what you said here was used as justification for them being discriminatory. And then to Darth Dragonis, Akuda says, I'm speaking from my experience like you are. You also don't know me, Darth, and I don't know you. Don't make assumptions about me, and I'm not going to do that to you. I'm saying that the left or right, as a generalized statement, doesn't mean anyone from either side in that way. And Darth Dragonis says, whoa, see what you did there? Yeah. and again, this is this we're operating inside of some of these logical fallacies right now. We're dealing with we're dealing with fallacies, logic fallacies around anecdotal evidence, around semantics, around all kinds of things here. And again, I think part of where the point's being missed, Akuda, is that you're operating in a very individual way. You see yourself as an individual, not as a part of the system. You don't. I'm not saying you don't see that the system exists, but you don't see how you. Akuda says, I've got to do stuff today, but this has given me some more perspective and a better understanding. Thanks for discussing and debating with me. You're right. I don't know how you see yourself. That was a guess on my part. Do you see yourself as a part of this system? That aside, good luck getting stuff done. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for talking. Thank you for listening. I appreciate that. Much love. Have fun. I know the systems exist, but I look past them. I look to build up people on all sides so that we can be a cohesive community at last, that lasts, regardless of our problems and our disagreements. Okay. That is a noble goal. I am looking at the systems that are in place and calling out the problems that I see. I've not figured out whether I believe that the systems need to be demolished and remade, or if I think that the systems can be fixed. I have heard often you cannot you can do that while taking action based on your personal beliefs and morals. I do. Outside of here, I do act very much in the ethical and moral standard that I've set for myself in here. Or more like I come in here speaking to the moral and ethical standard that I set for myself out there. I often find myself saying you can't tear down the master's house with the master's tools, which is a way of saying there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. There are other tool sets out there. I'm not very well versed in them. You know, I'm not I'm not the most well read in anarchist community building. I know it's out there. You know, I know that utopian I know a lot about utopian community building. I lived it. But these I still don't know if I think that the systems in place can be transformed and used, or if the systems that are in place are the foundations of what the systems are built on are already too rotten and corrupted to keep building on them, and to fix. You know, our nation was built on slavery and violence. Blood and bodies built this nation. Not in a good way. Is there a way to take out of that what is good about our democracy? What is good about our society? The way things are going right now, it really doesn't seem like it. The way things are right now, it seems like violence and corruption, racism, hatred, othering, all of these things are integral to our nation, integral to the people in power in our nation, integral to the running of our nation, the systems that support our nation. It sure seems like that right now. It may not be that way. We may be able to do something about that, to get out of that. But it requires all of us beginning to understand that the systems treat us differently. The systems are dehumanizing. The systems are racist. The systems are sexist. Darth Dragona says, bottom line, Akuda, whether you got fooled into thinking about small government and were just complacent with all the rest, you voted for a rashy individual. Not just a rashy individual, but a rashy contingent. You can hide behind that veil, but it is very thin. Yeah. I do feel like... I do think that maybe Akuda doesn't have a good sense of how scared we are. How much danger we see ourselves in. I think that's the, and not just Akuda. I think, the people who want to understand but are having a hard time, are having a hard time because their perspective doesn't have the same sheen of danger. And that's the thing, young white men don't have a lot to fear from the system. I think that's where that's where this whole thing is at. That's where the big difference is. And I think I kind of wish I'd had that thought earlier. Young white men don't have anything to fear from the system as long as they're not breaking rules. As long as they're behaving like they're supposed to. As long as they are performing white masculinity, the system is not designed to punish that. The system is designed to punish the performance of anything outside of white masculinity. And even, okay, so now, well then, how does the system expect women to behave like white men? It doesn't. It punishes women for being women. The system is still getting revenge on Eve for getting fooled by the snake. And so it's punishing them for not being white men at birth. It's punishing them not for how they behave, but for who they aren't. Just like the system punishes everyone else for that, too. No matter how much you perform white masculinity, the system knows you aren't and punishes you for not being that. And again, it's not personal racism. It's not individual racism or sexism. It's systemic. It's big picture. It's the government in power now. It's factions of the government that were in power under Biden. Kamala Harris is not a good person. We don't actually like her. I mean, yes, she did some good things as a lawyer, but she's a cop, yo. She's tried to do good things for people. Sure. She's tried to be a good person. Sure. She's a cop, yo. She's a liberal. She's a neoliberal cop. She's a neoliberal centrist. It's hard to explain, but she's whiter than I am. Yeah, right. Exactly. Can you believe that's what we had to vote for to keep out the fascists? Exactly. We had to vote for someone who had Republican policies, even though they called themselves a Democrat. You know, when the rest of the world says that the United States is conservative, they're not kidding. You know, yeah, we have got some real leftists like myself here, but not in government, not in power, not the majority, not the status quo. All of that is very, very conservative. Wow, we haven't even opened the book yet. In fact, we might not even. This is taken some, but I do think that this has been important to look at, to talk about. Um, I'm tempted to invite Akuda in on Saturday when we do our talk about logical fallacies. Anyway, this has been thought-provoking. I I well, okay, so I don't feel like I necessarily got my points across there. You know, I feel like but also I need to remember that this channel isn't about getting people to change their minds. This isn't about that. This is about looking for perspectives that support my statement that black women are in danger from the behavioral and mental / emotional health institutions in the United States. And this is dangerous because this is another one of those logical fallacies where you make a statement and then find proof to back it up. On the other hand, I don't think I don't I don't think this is quite the same as that kind of logical fallacy because what the proof, what the facts that I'm finding, what I'm finding backs up that marginalized people, yes, there are marginalized people who face danger from these systems, that these systems aren't designed for marginalized peoples. I think where it is dangerous is if I say that these systems that there are no systems designed for marginalized people ever, anywhere, and that I think I need to instead make sure that the scope of what I'm looking at and saying is appropriate. I think scope is part of the key here. I think also, I'm not trying to prove that it's some grand conspiracy that makes this true. I'm trying to prove that it has emerged from what's going on. Now, I personally do kind of think that it was a large kind of conspiracy. Not always intentional, but definitely conspiratorial. To keep marginalized people out of power, to keep white men in power. But I think that I don't think that it's conspiratorial to the granular level of hating on individuals because of who they are. I don't think it gets that small. I think it is just excluding groups from access to basic needs. Access to consideration as human. Yeah. You know, I oftentimes you hear me say I'm not real smart. I'm not the smartest guy in a room. I'm not the smartest girl in a room. I'm not the smartest room in the room. I ain't the sharpest spoon in the drawer. So muddling through these, trying to muddle through these ideas and capture them with language is very difficult. Thank you guys for sticking with me while I try to do that. It like I said, it is difficult. It is not easy. We are dealing with some very complex concepts. We're dealing with complex concepts here. We're dealing with situational ethics. We're dealing with individual moralities. You know, we're dealing with the full range of human emotion. You know, so it is a very complex picture that we're looking at. very, very complex ideas that I'm trying to grasp. And, you guys can see where I run into the limits of my intellect here. You can see where I run into that limitation of trying to grasp at these slippery ideas. And I guess I say all of that to remind you all to give yourself some grace when you're dealing with big thoughts, big ideas. Allow yourself some grace, knowing that it's hard to wrap your brain around these kinds of ideas. I think I also want to say, approach the world with a little bit of grace. Because there's no way we can know what's going on, truly what's going on in someone else's head. That being said, we also need to be advocating for ourselves. We need to be fearlessly and ferociously advocating for ourselves and for our loved ones and for our friends and for the rights that we believe each and every one of us deserves. We need to continue to fiercely advocate for equality, for love, for decency. It is. I don't know where that thought was going. It went without me. I had a thought, it went thunk. Well, friends, I think I'm going to call it in here. I know we haven't gotten to the book at all. Next week we'll try and get back to the book. And maybe, maybe that'll help Akuda, if he can hear this in other people's language, maybe that'll help Akuda figure out, sort of grasp some of these ideas. I know that a lot of these ideas are things that we feel in our hearts. Wow, Deadpan Dog is really whining about something. I know that these are ideas that we know in our hearts. The idea of equal love for all, equal respect, equal consideration for all. I hope that by going through these books, I'm getting better language to describe what that looks like. Well, all of that being said, I think this is where we're going to call it in today. Thank you, friends, for joining me. Thank you, Just Me Crystal, for being here. Much love to you. Darth Dragonis, Brock, thank you. Always, thank you. You're my guy. Oh crap, I forgot his name again. You're the Vin Diesel to my Barry Pepper. Akuda, thank you for coming in and talking to us. I appreciate the dialogue and the discourse. It was a lot less heated than it could have been. Is what I'll say. And if you're still lurking and listening, please feel free to join us on Saturday in the VC when we do this episode about logical fallacies. I guess stick around for the raid. And now is the time on the show when I say... Two up, two down. VA double deuces. I'm out, y'all.